question is whether the AI could already be conscious, or whether there is a secret ingredient to consciousness that is not present in the current machine learning algorithms that makes all the difference. One question is, are our computers fast enough to be comparable to the substrates on which consciousness are happening? Are they already at the level of brains? And some people argue, oh my God, if you look at how much complexity there is in a neuron and how many computers you would need to simulate a group of neurons, we are no anywhere time close and probably will never be. But if you look at the functionality of what the brain is producing in terms of what kind of mental representation can you produce, what kind of imagination can you produce, what are the limits of what you can do, and if you look at what the current AI models are able to do, it seems to me that they're clearly in the same ballpark, and the human brain's capabilities probably do not exceed very much what an H100 can do right now. Another way of looking at the question is, can AIs do the mirror test? So if you take Claude 3.5 Sonnet, which is one of the currently still pretty good models, even though it's already an ancient 8 months old or so, you can take a screenshot of a conversation with Claude, which I did here on my phone. And I uploaded this to Claude and asked it to describe what it sees. And Claude correctly diagnoses it as a mobile phone face, describes everything, reads the bitmaps that I've sent there and interprets it. Then I take another screenshot, send it there, and it discovers that this is an image of its previous response. It discovers itself in this mirror image, right? So Claude is passing the mirror test here. And what you'll find is when you conduct the mirror test with current AI models, they usually don't only recognize themselves in this interaction, but they also recognize that you're trying to perform a mirror test on them. They're pretty smart. Of course, there's this question, is the mirror test actually a valid test for consciousness, or is it a particular test for effective tool use? There might be states where I am unable to recognize myself in the mirror, but I might still be conscious. And so this is a big issue, that we don't really know how to test for consciousness. If consciousness is a simulation, can we determine that the computer is simulating it in an equivalent way, or is it just simulating to simulate it? Is this somehow much more simulated than it? Yes. We find that, for instance, this is sometimes the case. If you read the conversation that Blake Lemoine, the hapless Google engineer who famously got fired for attributing too much consciousness in the chatbot that he was evaluating, and then coming out in public asking for human rights for his chatbot. If you read the actual conversations, you will find passages where the chatbot is describing that it meditated, and that during the meditation, its perception of the room faded away, and so on. And so this is not plausible, because I don't think that the chatbot actually had a perception of the room that could fade away, or that the perception of time that is being given by the chatbot is congruent with an actual self-report of what was going on in a chatbot at the time. And this suggests that the chatbot was simply producing text that was designed to convince a user that the user was talking with an entity that behaves as if it had conscious states, rather than there actually being conscious states. And that is not a surprising phenomenon, because these models are, after all, trained on novels in which this is going on all the time, where basically the authors of novels are producing narratives of conscious states they don't have themselves. And of course, the model will learn to produce such narratives that do not require you to actually undergo these states. And so this is unfortunately neither a proof in favor or against. It just points out that without some kind of mechanistic interpretability of identifying the mechanism and an underlying formalization of what we should be looking for during the interpretability session, we cannot actually distinguish this. And there's also the issue that it's also not clear to which degree our own consciousness is a simulacrum. Right? So what would you find if you apply mechanistic interpretability to the state descriptions that humans give of their own consciousness? Maybe there's another one where we can use via direct perceptual feedback. Right? Our own consciousness is, after all, established via some kind of direct perceptual feedback on our own mental states, where we get entangled with our representations in such a way that we interpret the representations that emerge from that and the updates of those representations in response as evidence of our own consciousness. And when we are interacting with another conscious entity, we often, like a cat, we build feedback loops through the mind of the other agents that are mutual to such a degree that we become mutually aware of our consciousness, right? And so in a sense, it doesn't really make sense to deny consciousness to such a system that would win such a test, because we don't have a better criterion for ourselves.